Well, joining us now from Tel Aviv is the Israeli Prime Minister's spokesman, Mark Regev. Mark Regev, before all this began, not that long ago, Hamas and the Palestinian Authority were sharing power in the West Bank. That, of course, heralded the possibility of some degree of unity in any peace talks with you. That has been shot to pieces by this. Is there any hope now of any kind of central discussion with the Palestinians and perhaps listening to what Mr. Obama has said today, which is go for a ceasefire now?
Well, if we come out of this with Hamas substantially weakened, with Hamas discredited in the eyes of the Palestinians for initiating and causing this crisis, with Hamas most of all discredited amongst the people of Gaza who didn't want this war in the first place, it's possible that the more moderate forces will have energy and momentum, and that could be a good thing for the peace process.
The problem, though, surely is that this is a question of loss of face on both sides. Neither side can afford to do so. It is said that Hamas have 10,000 of these rockets. You've eroded perhaps a couple of thousand of them. That means there's 8,000 to go. There is terrible suffering going on now in the Gaza sector. And it's very hard to see that it's possible to continue this war without the complete destruction of a civilian population.
No, I disagree. Our goal here is to come out of this with a sustained period of quiet. I mean, ultimately, our goal is defensive. We want peace and quiet for the Israeli civilian population so they don't have to live in fear of an incoming rocket or terrorists infiltrating the border from Gaza. That's doable. It's doable by doing two things. One, by our military action today against the Hamas military machine. That machine is being depleted as we speak. And secondly, if Hamas leaders come out of this understanding that they simply cannot target Israeli civilians with impunity.
But you've had peace and quiet, as you put it, a good number of times down the last decade or so and more, and you did nothing with it.
I disagree. We've wanted to negotiate. We've wanted to move forward. What does Hamas say? Hamas opposes any negotiations with Israel. Hamas denies my country's very right to exist, and Hamas has declared war on every single Israeli civilian, man, woman, and as we saw 2 weeks ago, children as well. Hamas is the antithesis of peace and reconciliation, and as such, if Hamas comes out of this weakened, as to refer to your first question, I think that could give new momentum to the peace process.
But in truth, what you've done, surely, is to erode everything by continuing to build utterly internationally unacceptable and illegal settlements in land that isn't yours. And that has been the single most destructive aspect of the whole relationship between you and Palestine.
I know that's the conventional wisdom, but if you'll allow me to challenge it, I'd like to say the following sentence. Actually, in Gaza, we took down all the settlements. In Gaza, we removed them, and those settlers who didn't want to leave, we forced them to leave. And we pulled back to the 1967 lines in Gaza. Now, I would ask you, what has the Palestinian body politic done to want to encourage us to do that again? And until the Palestinians can answer that question,
well, let me put that,
because when we took down settlements and when we pulled out...
Let me put that question to Hanan Ashrawi, who has joined us from Ramallah. She was one of the most prominent people in the Middle East peace process. She's on the executive committee of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. What is your answer to Mark Regev's dismissal of the idea that the great stumbling block has been settlements?
Well, that's one of the stumbling blocks. It's a great one because it violates international law, it violates the most basic requirements of peace, it preempts the outcome of the talks, it destroys the chances of a two-state solution by destroying the possibility of a contiguous viable Palestinian state. So settlements are a land theft, settlements are totally antithetical to peace, settlements show bad faith and show seriousness of intent to carry out unilateral measures to preempt the outcome of talks and to prevent the success of the talks. So yes, settlements are entirely antithetical, and they're not just a major obstacle, they're really the death knell of the talks. But there are other issues, including Israeli impunity. Israel acts and exists outside international law, not just with settlements, but with other issues, and has evolved a very racist, total disregard for Palestinian lives and rights, leading to this lethal, cruel blockade of Gaza, the siege of Gaza, and of course, the fragmentation of the West Bank, collective punitive measures.
Before I put that to Mark Regev, let me just ask you a specific question, which is that you are there on the West Bank, a long way out of here. Do you feel complete solidarity with the people of Gaza? Are you in solidarity with Hamas, who were, until very recently, very much your allies in the West Bank, in a new relationship?
I'm so sorry. Are you asking me this question about our relationship with Hamas? I can barely hear you. The sound is not very clear.
I am asking you specifically, I'm asking you, are you in solidarity with the people of Gaza and with Hamas in particular, who were until recently with you in the West Bank in administering the entire Palestinian areas?
Look, we feel that this assault is an assault on all the Palestinian people. It's an assault on the whole Palestinian national program. It shows total disregard for Palestinian lives. You have a captive population besieged by air, by land, by sea, being shelled and bombed and pounded, and hundreds of civilians killed, thousands injured. We are in solidarity because we are one people. The Palestinian people are one. Hamas is part of a pluralistic political system. What Israel is trying to do is that it's trying to demonize Hamas, pull out the terrorist card, and give itself license to kill and destroy at will without any intervention or accountability. So we are one people,
Hanan,
and we are one political system. We may have disagreements, we have political disagreements, there's nothing wrong with that.
Hanan,
but this assault is an assault on everything that is human and decent and moral.
I'm going to go back to Mark Regev and put those points to him, but most specifically, Mark Regev, let us ask you this single question. The world is on fire, from Ukraine to northern Nigeria, from northern Nigeria to the Central African Republic, down to all parts of Iraq. So at what point are you going to call an end to this extraordinarily dangerous conflict here? When will you stop?
We'll cease the conflict when we can be assured that our people are not going to be attacked. That's the bottom line. When there's an end to the rocket fire and an end to the terrorist infiltrations from Gaza. That's all we're asking, not for anything more. And I'd remind your guest that President Abbas himself has called on the Hamas movement to adopt the Arab League Egyptian ceasefire as we did. I believe he criticized them for not doing so and for continuing this senseless shooting of rockets into Israel. And that has to be said. Hamas is isolated today more so than ever, not only in the international community, but also in the Arab world, because Hamas has stood up against an Arab League-supported ceasefire proposal. And I think Hamas, first and foremost, has a problem with the people of Gaza.